Story 1. Good grammar and spelling are important. It would irritate me if they did not know the difference between there, and there. Story 2. What feels to me like the most shallow one is not having food allergies. I like to cook and bake and try new recipes in restaurants, which would feel a lot less fun if I couldn't share them with my girlfriend without risking her health. Story 3. I am an older woman and see a lot of men my age trying to look European by wearing a scarf and a fedora. Just know. Story 4. If your introduction about yourself, either in person or online, included anything about marijuana, I immediately lost interest. Story 5. I don't like puffy nipples on men. The ones that kind of look like big Hershey kisses or are just really big and puffed out, no thanks. I'll add this. I don't mind there being chest muscle. I just personally don't like cuppy pepperoni. It doesn't really make me think less of a person, and most women and gay or bisexual men don't care. It's just the most shallow thing I personally don't care for. Don't let it get you down. Story 6. I like beards, facial hair, and scruff on men, but any man who willingly grows a goatee is an immediate turnoff. Goatees inspire such visceral revulsion in me that it would never work. It reminds me of too many men who, for other reasons, are not good people, and for some reason, the goatee seems to be a common facial hair choice among those types. Oh, and sorry to all the men out there who have the same name as my recent ex, but even if I think you are attractive, the name is a trigger for me. Story 7. I don't know if it constitutes as shallow, but I no longer date men who are still friends with their exes. You can be on good, cordial terms, and if there is co-parenting, that is okay. But it has become problematic literally every time in my experience, so I fully do not engage with it anymore. Story 8. Perfect command of our shared native language. I judge people by their grammar and word choice, and I know it's not cool. Kind of snobbish. In my defense, I'm a proofreader and I don't want to feel like I'm working when I read their messages. Edit to clarify. Of course, I'm referring to native speakers. I would never expect a foreigner to be as proficient as a native person, just as much as I imagine a native English speaker wouldn't expect it from me. For me to have a crush on them. And of course, I would date someone who doesn't speak my language. My weird dating requirement doesn't apply to foreigners. Story 9. They have to know how to swim. I was a competitive swimmer for 11 years, and I have a pool in my backyard. I was a lifeguard for 8 years. I adore all things water, and water and swimming are a huge part of my life. A compromise could be made where I would be willing to teach them to swim, but they have to be willing to learn. Story 10. Might be a little extra, but I have a dislike for someone who cannot just return things where they were or how they were. Story 11. Height. I am a 6-foot-tall woman, and I have dated and seen people shorter than me. I do not necessarily see an issue with it. However, in my experience, it always becomes a problem for them later on in the relationship when I wear heels or when they start feeling emasculated through no fault of my own. Story 12. Balding but trying to salvage it. Like comb-overs or hair plugs. If you are balding, that is cool. That is life. If you are trying to hide it, that is uncomfortable. Shave it. Story 13. Broke it off with someone because she was obsessed with Twilight. She also tried to get me involved with a pyramid scheme, but that was a while later. Story 14. I am not saying they have to hook up on the first date, but I am not dating anyone who is waiting for marriage to have sex. Story 15. I guess it's not a requirement but a strong preference. I don't like blonde hair on guys, whether natural or otherwise. Story 16. I am not in the dating pool these days, but my shallow preference is that I do not like even a single mole or beauty mark near the mouth of a woman. It is a complete deal breaker for me. I realize that this is ridiculous, and I accept any and all criticism I may receive for it, but I cannot help it. I genuinely thought this was something I was alone in and would receive a lot of backlash for. Thank you for making me feel better about this. Story 17. Some individuals are providing appropriate answers, not superficial ones. The question seeks shallow requirements. Personally, I dislike nail polish on both fingers and toes. The bolder the color, the worse it looks. It unsettles me when I have to shake hands in a professional setting and the other person's nails are dark. Although I manage to conceal my discomfort well, Therefore, in a romantic partner, that quality cannot be present. That is superficial. If I were in the dating pool, I would remain single indefinitely. Story 18. Individuals who vape. It is strange because I smoke cannabis, but something about continuous tobacco vaping and that unusual sweet chemical taste in their mouth when we kiss is really a turn-off for me. Additionally, the constant clouds and vaping indoors is not acceptable. Story 19. Height needs to be taller than me. I am 5 feet 7 inches, so I feel like that is not too much of an ask. Body composition. I do not mind some extra weight, but I cannot stand really skinny men. They look like a pole bean. Sorry. You mentioned shallow. Story 20. Is it shallow to require no drama from kids or exes? I am in my 40s and just do not want Jerry Springer type drama in my life. Is that shallow? Story 21. No major mental illnesses. I just got out of a multi-year relationship with a girl who has borderline personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder, and a bunch of other issues. I am not going to go through that again. You have to be able to take care of yourself. Also, I am not too overweight, a little is okay. But there is a limit and have decent dental and physical hygiene. Story 22. People need to be attracted to someone's appearance at first glance. It does not work for me to think that if I like their personality, the physical attraction will grow. That never works for me, so I won't waste my time. Story 23. Nice eyes and eyebrows and a face that is interesting. I dislike plain faces. I would much prefer a less conventionally attractive person over a plain-faced attractive one. Story 24. I just want to comment that it's funny how men's shallow answers are being upvoted. But my saying I need a six-pack is being downvoted. It's a post meant to be shallow. Story 25. Eye spacing. Wide-set eyes are okay and often attractive, but if they are too close together, I feel like I am being interrogated. Story 26. Men will hate me for this, but I need them to be tall. In my defense, I'm not some 5 feet 2 inches chick wanting a 6 feet 4 inches dude as a status symbol because every guy loves small girls, and they know they can have who they want. It's because I'm 5 feet 9 inches and will openly admit I'm horribly self-conscious about looking big next to a man too close to my own size or smaller. I weigh about what a thin guy that height would, but I obviously lack the same muscles a guy would have, so I'd more than likely look at least a little bit bigger than him because the weight is in squish rather than muscle, and I unfortunately just would not cope with that well at all. It's totally shallow, but it's about me, not them. I don't even find shorter guys less attractive. Being with one would just make me feel all big and ugly. I really wish I didn't care. Story 27. As a black man, personally, if I see a woman, she has to be black or at least half black for us to be dating seriously. I imagine that is quite shallow. Just my honest preference, though. Story 28. Haha, this is gonna sound shallow. I guess it is, but I don't like bald guys at all. It's okay if my man goes bald. I will still love him and be into him, but I would never seek out a bald man to date. Story 29. Tipping your server or bartender in the United States works differently than in other places. I had an instance where I went on a date, and she did not tip after bragging about having an extra $800. There was not a second date. Story 30. Septum piercings weird me out. I don't like them. I don't know why, but I don't like them. More metal is better in basically every case except the septum. Story 31. They absolutely cannot wear the toe shoes. I know they are better for your feet, but I cannot. They are so cringe. Story 32. Taller than me, which is not hard considering I am 5 feet tall. That goes for both men and women. Story 33. Good taste in clothing is important. For example, men who dress as if they have not changed their fashion sense since middle school do not appeal to me. No matter how attractive their face or body might be, if they wear unappealing clothes, I am immediately turned off. Story 34. A good job. Lots of people are really nice, but I do not want to end up supporting them, no matter how attractive they are. Story 35. He has to be older than me. I don't know why myself. Ever since I was a kid, it's been that way, but that's because I assumed people died in order, and I said as the wife I want my husband to die first because that's the natural order of things. Dumb, I know. Now that I'm older, I know that death isn't this perfect linear event, And we don't know when the time will come, but yet I still can't shake that little requirement. I think the only exception I can make is for women, but only like 2 to 3 years younger. Story 36. That they don't wear those skinny jeans while they have really thin legs. I'm sorry, but it is just too unattractive. Story 37. Good online communication is important. Do not leave messages unread. Do not take long to reply. Initiate conversations and consider sending a video or two. Story 38. Has to have some kind of memory of where they were on September 11th. If the answer is, I learned about that in history class, she is too young for me. Story 39. No severe mental health issues. I know this will not be popular, but I have spent years dealing with people who have a variety of disorders. Dealing with someone who is psychotic and delusional on a regular basis is incredibly draining. The relationship revolves around them. Your feelings will always be a low priority, if you are lucky, and they often will not even recognize that in any meaningful way. I did my best. I gave it years. Also, nice appearance. I can forgive a lot for that. Story 40. I'm a 6'2" girl. You have to be at least 6 feet tall for me to date you. I have dated shorter than that, and it's just not for me personally. Story 41. I appreciate certain physical attributes in women. I wish I didn't, as it led to a difficult marriage. They were truly remarkable in my defense, but I just can't be interested if a woman doesn't have at least a C cup. I know it's superficial. I realize it's not ideal, but I cannot change my preferences. Story 42. Very petty. Very shallow. My ex was abusive, and I still have to have contact with him regularly due to the children. Someone who is better than him in ways that he feels inferior or inadequate adds nothing to the relationship other than me knowing he feels emasculated by the man I am with. Unhealthy? Yes. Satisfying when I have to interact with a person I don't want to so much. And it could be any one of his insecurities. Height, size, looks, money, career, education, personality, being more athletic, etc. Anything that I know he lashed out at me about, and to see some have it and be kind about it and not as hurtful towards others. Story 43. To me, shallow means something you are born with and cannot help, such as your face, your general bone structure, height, general breast size, and propensity towards male pattern baldness. In contrast, non-shallow aspects are things you can help, like your weight and fitness, the way you dress, and your hygiene. My most shallow dating requirement is that I will not date anyone who is too much on the spectrum or neurodivergent. I apologize that you are wired differently, but it is really stressful having to spell everything out and redefine basically every single social concept when most other people can understand what I am saying in less than a minute. Story 44. I never thought this was a requirement, but long ago I went on a date with a guy and he did not swing his arms at all. At first, I could not figure out what was throwing me off. When I realized what it was, I just could not get over it. Story 45. They have to know how to properly load a dishwasher. If I see one more person put a bowl face up, I am swearing off dating forever. Standards are standards. Story 46. Healthy mentally and physically. You don't have to be extremely fit, but you also shouldn't be out of breath walking up a couple of flights of stairs. Healthy. Story 47. I know it is a bit weird, but nice teeth. The reason is that good oral hygiene is an indication of good health in general. Story 48. I cannot date a girl with a smaller rear end than mine. My backside isn't large, but for a guy, I am somewhat well built. Story 49. This is the absolute dumbest requirement, but for me, after a lot of experience in the dating scene, I came to realize that whoever I date has to be originally from the same area where I grew up. And I do not live anywhere close to there. But it is a very specific upbringing, and there is just always some spark missing when that character or sensibility is not present. I have managed to find plenty of opportunities to date, though, because we are kind of born to be transplants. Also, teeth. Story 50. Honestly, I really need to find them extremely physically attractive, and I have pretty high standards for what that is. I regularly hear someone called hot and find them pretty average at best. Unfortunately, I know this sounds awful, but if it helps, I'm really not trying to make it anyone else's problem and am not actively trying to date at all. The honest truth is I was a very closeted person for a long time and had multiple long relationships with men, even to the point of discussing marriage and kids, when I realized I wasn't physically attracted to men at all. So now, while obviously any woman will be more attractive to me than a man was, I feel like I spent so many years settling for something I wasn't into that I'm scared of getting into something that sounds great emotionally and then realizing again I just can't get interested physically. So at least for now, I'm really only going to try something with someone who makes me do a double take and feel floored. And if that doesn't happen, that's okay too. I think I'm happier alone than not feeling interested physically again. Story 51. Honestly, I prefer clean-shaved guys. People have called me immature or even a lesbian for this a few times, but I just hate body hair in those areas like intimate areas, chest, belly, legs, beards, and armpits. They really are not my cup of tea. Heck, I cannot stand hair on my body. It repulses me so much, no matter how natural it is. It's just not for me. Story 52. I cannot date a man who does not eat meat. Even if he ate all types of meat except for beef, it is a no from me. My grandparents were cattle ranchers, and I was raised eating all types of meats, especially beef. Now, cooking for people is one of my favorite things to do. Literally, it is a passion of mine. I cannot imagine cooking 2 different meals every time I wanted beef. No, especially if I had children with a man like that. I am not a short-order cook and definitely do not want someone else in the kitchen cooking something different. Story 53. Not sure if this counts, but I cannot date someone who is a picky eater. I am a foodie, and I love trying new recipes and restaurants with a significant other. There is nothing worse than going to a nice restaurant for dinner and your date asks for a burger and fries. We might as well have gone to McDonald's. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.